Well, welcome to our continuing coverage of the Sail 254th here in New York Harbor. And we're joined by retired Vice Admiral Dixon Smith, who currently is living in Annapolis and is the director of Naval Academy Competitive Sailing. And I love having that word competitive in there, Dixon. And thank you very much for joining us. So the Naval Academy has sent three of their 44-foot racing training vessels up to New York for the harbor. What things will they be doing over the next few days?
So, Gary, they just pulled in to New York Harbor this morning. They got to sail past the Statue of Liberty and the Battery, and now they're heading up the East River. They're going to go over to Kings Point and stay at Kings Point until it's time to come over Dark 30 on the 4th to join the parade up the river to GW and back down.
You know, back in 1976, the Naval Academy had four of the Luder's 44s at that time, and they had the wind just right. They could set spinnakers, did simultaneous jibes, and it stole the show. It was really something special. Do you have anything like that planned for this time around,
So
2026?
So the boats we have, they're part of what's called our Command Seamanship Training Squadron, so CSTS Squadron. So these are midshipmen, predominantly our rising sophomores or what we call youngsters. And so they don't have any sailing experience. So they've had a week of ground school and local ops here in San Diego before they headed up. They did a quick stop in Baltimore. They're now up in New York after the 4th of July weekend festivities are over. They're going to head up to Boston and do the 250 up there before they come home. Of course, the winds have got to be right going up the river. But we are sending up some offshore team sailors to join them in case the winds are right, that we can also fly the spinnakers. Each one of the three boats is going to be aligned with one of the tall ships and escorting them up the river at 6 knots.
Of course, the spinnakers have the navy blue and gold proudly
Yeah.
flying on the cloth, which will make them look really good. So I hope you get the spinnakers flying.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Dixon, you've had quite a career. Grew up in Southern Connecticut, got a commission to the Naval Academy, got your 4 years in, and then had quite a distinguished career in the Navy. And while you were at the Academy, you were on the sailing team, I think all 8 semesters with the team. How did your training help you with your career once you got into the fleet?
Uh, One of the beauties of sailing, whether it's dinghies and also offshore, and a lot more offshore in some ways, is decision making that you've got to do, risk management, risk assessment, leading a group of folks in adverse conditions. You know, we've got 36 varsity sports here at the Academy, and what I like to remind both the superintendent, who basically is the president of our the academy here, and the athletic director is. Um, 34 or 35 of the 36 sports. If something goes wrong, you have an injury or breakdown, you can call it timeout. When you're out in the ocean and you have an injury, someone, has something happen to their hand on a winch or whatever the case may be, or something breaks, you can't call a timeout. You got to fix it and you got to keep on going with what you got. Having that kind of experience here at the Academy, I was privileged to have the old Scaramouche and Morningstar, the Swan, or excuse me, the Freres 48, my senior year, and I was able to take her offshore and be able to put together a team of midshipmen and do the Annapolis to Newport, do the Marblehead to Halifax race, being offshore and things go wrong, happen to figure out on the spot how to correct it and persevere, really helped in my career when those same kind of situations presented themselves on the ship I might have been assigned to at the time.
You know, one of the proud graduates in Naval Academy, now past, Buzz Aldrin, came and spoke at the Academy about 15 years ago, and I was there that afternoon when astronaut Aldrin came, and he really spoke about the value of being on the offshore sailing team, and how that helped him with Apollo 13 and his missions in space. And it was quite inspiring that sail training made a difference in a real time of need.
Well, I mean, the same thing. I mean, the things going wrong in space. you've got to react and you've got to make decisions with the resources you have. Yes, you can call back and ask for help, but you've got to use the tools and the resources and the people to affect the repairs or correct the casualty and make the decisions. You can't stop, go to the store, or bring out a new part to fix what's going on in that real time situation.
So a word that I like to use, and see if you endorse it, when you're at sea, you've got to be resourceful. You know,
Yes,
things
you've got to be
happen and
resourceful.
you might not know what's coming, but resourceful is an important word.
I agree. It's resourceful. You've got to have ingenuity. You've got to have decision making. You've got to think on the spot and make decisions real time.
So I think the Coast Guard has a pretty good presence here in New York Harbor, and uh, the Navy and the Coast Guard have very different missions, but you know they both have academies, and you get to know each other, and you compete on the water, obviously. And how does the Navy and Coast Guard interface with each other?
So we see each other in the sailing perspective. We see each other at the regattas, whether it's intercollegiate dinghy sailing or whether it's offshore. For example, Newport Bermuda race just completed here last week. Coast Guard had a boat in it, and actually. Coast Guard and our two Navy boats. We have a Curve 50 that sailed, one of our donated boats, and one of the Navy 44s, the government assets. They were together on the team of three boats racing Newport Bermuda and got scored together. There's a close relationship. I mean, we come from the same brotherhood, sisterhood, and service to the country. And so those form bonds over those 4 years, and they will continue after they graduate.
I think one of the 44s with midshipmen on it did pretty well in a Newport Bermuda race.
It did very well. Invincible, she finished third in St. David's Lighthouse, Division Two, only bested by Dorade and Carina, you know, historic boats, and that both have won the race before. Overall, she finished 10th out of 86 in the St. David's Lighthouse division, which of course is the Corinthians division. We also, in the Annapolis to Bermuda race this year, we had another Navy 44 that actually won that race, and ORC corrected.
Pretty impressive stuff. A real feather in the cap of the midshipmen, and they're in charge, right? They're making all the decisions. You do have an officer on the boat, but he's just as an advisor and make sure everything's running smoothly. But he's not making the decisions. They let the mids do it. Is that correct?
That's correct. And so the skipper of the boat, which is a midshipman, in this case, it's a rising senior, they have to go through a qualification process and make sure that they understand the boat, whether it's the electrical systems, the engineering systems, the sail plan, damage control. So again, if adversity strikes or in the ocean, they know how to respond. And so they earn that qualification. And generally speaking, there are 8 midshipmen on the boat, and probably 2 or 3 have that qualification and know what they're doing. And then there was probably 3 to 4 rising sophomores that don't have a whole lot of experience. But yes, those senior midshipmen are in charge of the boat and have the qualifications and experience that we trust them. And so the safety officers, the coaches are just there in case something happens in extremis where they need help.
So I was at a dinner a couple months ago in Annapolis that celebrated women being at the academy. It's been 50 years, which
Yep.
astounds me that 50 years have gone by because I was around during that time. And there was a couple tables that with women that were sailing team. What percentage of the midshipmen, female midshipmen, are on the sailing team and actively participate in the varsity team?
Um, so I would tell you on the dinghy team, we have 35 on the team this past year, and 17 of those women were from 17 of those were women. On the offshore team, I would say it's about 25% of the team. We carry between 70 and 80 people on the offshore team, and it's about 25%, which is the same demographic for the academy at large.
And one of the interesting things to me on the offshore sailing team is quite a few of the midshipmen are new to sailing when they came to Annapolis. You know, they're from Nebraska or Iowa and haven't really been on the water before, and yet they go out for sailing.
Yeah, absolutely. We actually just had our sports information period for the new class of freshmen or plebes. They showed up at I Day or an indoctrination day last week. And for the offshore team, we had about probably 60 that showed up that were interested. We'll take about 30 when we're done with plebe summer and tryouts. But over 50% of them have no sailing experience when I asked who did and who did not have the experience. So yes, I mean it's amazing what we'll do is, I mean, we've got 7 boats that are racing offshore this summer, and I would, of the 7, probably 3 of them had no sailing experience before they got here, and now they're in charge of a boat.
That is very cool. So, in the sport of sailing, when you're doing offshore racing or the command and seamanship training that you described earlier, you're often out at sea or in bays by yourself. There's no spectators. It's not like Army Navy football gets a lot of spectators and a lot of television viewers. But here in New York Harbor, there's a big crowd. There's hundreds, thousands of boats and people on the shoreline, both on the Jersey and New York side and Governor's Island. What does it mean to midshipmen when they recognize that people are cheering for them and they become the showcase?
It's pretty cool for them because they don't, to your point, they don't realize or understand the folks that are out there. They're actually are cheering on their Navy. I mean, that's part of not just in sailing, but the whole academy itself is they're larger than something than themselves. It isn't just them. It's they're representing the Naval Academy, representing the Navy, and in this case, this week, they're representing the United States along the coastline of Manhattan, and it's a big deal for them. And they're gonna have grins ear to ear, all Saturday long.
One of the impressive things about the 250th in New York is these tall ships, the Class A's, from all over the world, Europe, South America, that are celebrating with us. And did you find in the Navy that you interface with some of these other countries and their navies? Uh, I mean, I got to think there's a good spirit there when these other countries are sending their vessels to our country to celebrate our birthday.
Absolutely. Our relationship with other countries across all the services, but specifically the Navy, because of the way we deploy and move around the world, we have relationships, and we'll meet officers and sailors from other countries early on in our career, and those relationships will continue throughout. You know, case in point, we had the boats are. Were in Baltimore, along with the Class A's this past weekend, and they engage together and they're developing relationships as midshipmen with midshipmen from the other academies from other countries. Those relationships, and now they're going to see him again in New York, and they're going to see him again in Boston. And the relationship that they form over these next 3 weeks are going to continue for the rest of their careers and in lives, some cases.
So that helps get the world be a little safer place, I would think.
Absolutely. When something goes down or something goes wrong, if you have that relationship that's 20, 30 years old, and now you're a senior officer in the Navy, you can pick up the phone and have a conversation with your counterpart because you've already built that trust over those years.
Going back to the time that mids spend on the 44s and you send them on the ocean and they're in charge of their destiny there, I'm sure mistakes are made along the way. Things unexpected happen. There's weather events, there's equipment events, there might be seasickness goes on there. Are mistakes easily forgiven?
They are forgiven. I mean, obviously, if a mistake is made, we want to understand why it happened and do a debrief on it. And what are the proper actions should have been taken? Take the corrective actions that need to be taken so it doesn't happen again. But I mean, we all know the best way you learn is trial and error and making mistakes. And so we need to have forgiveness, but also hold a high standard and expectation so it doesn't happen again.
When I did the America's Cup with Ted Turner, I found that he was incredibly tolerant when somebody made a mistake one time. You did not want to make a mistake a second time, but that first time, okay, let's understand what happened so it doesn't happen again. And I'll tell you, people made sure they didn't make a mistake a second time. So it was a good philosophy. It sounds like the same thing that
Yeah.
goes
Yeah.
on with the midshipmen.
Absolutely. I mean, we had a 44 have a soft grounding here earlier during spring practice. It shouldn't have happened, but okay, let's go figure out why it happened and put corrective actions in place so that mistake doesn't happen again.
Well, I've been on boats that have found North America myself a few times. It definitely happens. An unmarked shoal, not paying attention. Hopefully, you run aground in some sandy bottom, not some rocky bottom up in Maine. That's it get a little more crazy
Yeah.
when the bottom's not forgiving
I
like
have
that.
I have run aground in plenty of sailboats. I have to say, I've luckily, and it would be bad. I've not run aground in my ship.
So, Dixon, can you give me a couple highlights of some of the commands that you've had over the years?
Sure. So I had command of USS the Sullivans, DD 68, an Arleigh Burke destroyer out of Mayport, Florida. Of course, she is named after the five Sullivan brothers that went down on USS Juno and Battle of Iron
Right.
Bottom Sound. Historic ship. It was a privilege to have command of that many years ago. We deployed her to the Persian Gulf and had a very busy deployment over there. And then, I had grown up in cruisers and destroyers and culminated with that command when I was a commander. And then when I went back to the fleet after my tour here at the Academy in what we call Major Command, they sent me to Command Naval Base San Diego. And so I kind of moved over to the installation business, if you will, and I was responsible eventually for all 71 bases of the Navy has around the world. When I was in Hawaii, I was fortunate enough to have responsibility for the 10 ships that are signed out in Hawaii. So I've had a diverse career, but I think I've been blessed, fortunate to have command 7 or 8 times. So very, very lucky. And yes, I would do it all over again, to include being a plebe.
Well, I got to think with all that experience, it certainly helped for you when you're interfacing with the midshipmen today. You've been there and you can talk about it and inspire them and give them some guidance about their future careers.
I do. I to be able to come back here and be the director of competitive sailing is a blessing and an honor to be able to give back to both the sport and the institution that has given Kiki and I the life we've had, and mentorship and sitting down and talking with midshipmen about decision making, why are you doing what you're doing, mistakes that I made in the fleet, is a huge part of being here. And what makes this job so rewarding is interacting with those young men and women every single day.
I was at a meeting at the Naval Academy earlier this year when the superintendent came and spoke about the sailing team and his vision, and we all sat on our chairs leaning forward. And he said, "Look, I'm 100% for a sailing program, and if you need resources, you can come to me and let me help you out. If you have a recruit that needs a phone call, I'm happy to make a call." And everybody's sitting up. Oh, this is really good. And then he said, "But I like winning. Winning is important, and you're in charge of competitive sailing. So, how's it looking for the next couple seasons here? Now that we know the superintendent's winning and you're in charge of competitive sailing."
Yeah, yeah. Superintendent was, if you're happy with second, don't bother coming to talk to me. Not good. We're good. We're so on the dinghy team side, we've got some great coaches here with Ian Burnham and KJ and Dylan. I think where we need to really focus is the recruiting and who we're bringing in, increase the number of blue chips we're getting here, and we're working on that effort. So I'm optimistic of where we're heading over the next couple of years. Of course, there's 7 disciplines that we compete for national titles in within the dinghy team, and so we've got to reinvigorate that across all 7. On the offshore side, we've been working hard to identify what right now we're sailing this summer, for example, 2 donated boats and 4, or actually 5, Naval Academy or Navy 44s. I want to change that mix and get to more donated boats, because now they're in more competitive fleets when they're up in New England racing or doing the offshore racing, vice with the 44. And so we're working closely with the Naval Academy Sailing Foundation, which is an awesome organization that goes out and finds folks that would like to donate their boats and charters us charters them to the academy at no cost. And so we're working hard on that to identify potential donors. And again, a lot of folks think that because we're the Naval Academy, Department of Navy, that we're funded by the taxpayer. That is not true at all. 98% of the Naval Academy Athletic Association is through revenue resources other than the government. Sailing, I rely heavily on donors and folks that are gracious enough to give to the program. So as we work the side of donated boats, I want to get to a mix where I'm all donated boats for the offshore team that also allows to give back the Navy 44s to the CSTS or the Command Seamanship Training Squadron, so we can get more midshipmen from the brigade out on the water and experiencing life at sea and the decision-making process that has to come with that.
So let me wind up here with one big question here. I'm sure we have some young viewers, middle school, high schoolers, that are considering their college and where they're going to go, and more importantly, what career they're going to go on. And the Naval Academy seems to me, if you like the sport of sailing, it's a great place to go. You have some interest in the sea. What do you say to prospective midshipmen and why they should try to get an appointment to the academy?
It's an amazing education. It's about something larger than yourself. If you want to get a first class education, if you want to serve your country, give back, help make a difference, if you want to lead people, this is the place to come. It's going to push you, it's going to challenge you. I mean, let's acknowledge it is not the same as going to a state university or a college somewhere, but it's a crucible. And if you want to challenge yourself and you want to push yourself and be better on the backside, this is the place to come. As I said earlier, I'll be honest. I came to the Naval Academy to sail. In retrospect, I am so glad I went through this because I'm a better person, a better husband, and a better man for having gone to the Naval Academy.
So I'm going to wind up with four great words that I'm going to try and get you to smile. You ready?
All right, go.
Go Navy, beat Army.
And
All
everyone
right.
else.
Admiral, thank you very much.
Right.
Yeah, there
Thank
you
you,
go.
Gary.
Exactly. Thank you very much for the time and I hope to see you around the harbor here.
Hey, it's great to see you, and thank you so much.